All right, all right. I'm very excited. We got some technical difficulties out of the way. To have Nandi Howard. So you are from Houston, right?
Yeah. I'm from Houston. I moved there. Well, I moved there when I was like in the third or fourth grade. I'm originally from St. Louis, but I like grew up in Houston.
You like Nelly?
I mean, I like some of his songs, but I couldn't like name you a Nelly song, no.
You can name a Nelly song. You have to be able to name a Nelly song.
Like the Hot in Here song, but that's the only one I know. Like the main one.
Okay, that's crazy. What about what could you like barbecue? Because like I think St. Louis is kind of famous for barbecue. I think.
Um no, I mean my mom has been vegan for 25 years, so I just think
Wow.
that should say a lot. We don't really eat
Okay,
like a lot
well
of stuff like that.
we're bearing the lead here because you're the content director at Essence, which is pretty insane. And you like, because I was looking you up and I was like, oh, you went to like Elkins, and then I think you went to PV, right?
No, I went to DePaul
Oh yeah,
and
sorry, Paul.
yeah. Don't disrespect me.
I know. Well, hey, wait, that's not. I think I was thinking PV because well, no, you're gonna have PV people.
No,
You're gonna have PV people like up your coming after you.
no.
No disrespect
I
to
went to
PV.
DePaul in Chicago.
Oh yeah, sorry, DePaul. I don't know where I got PV from. I'm sorry. But yes, and you also you were the editor in chief of the Houstonia magazine, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so how did you do? I mean, that's very fast. Like, you like. I also feel like creative kind of things. You tend to have to like, for lack of a better word, like eat shit for like a year. You've everyone's seen. Well, I haven't seen Devil Wears Prada, but everyone kind of understands in entertainment or media. It's often your mom, your parents are rich, and so you work for nothing. You're an intern, and you're like people throw coffee at you basically, and then you do that for 10 years, and then you finally get a title. But you're over here, you're like a boss already. So how did that happen?
Yeah, like I mean, my first job in New York was at BET. I was an editorial assistant there, for the style department, like kind of the .com BET Digital,
How'd
and
you
I
get that
was
job?
do stalking people via email. Like I don't know, like
Okay, that's what,
I
that's
mean
why
I could
that's what we need to know. Because I was looking at your LinkedIn. I'm like, how did you hold up? Like you came up very quickly, which is
like so. I mean, if we want to take a step back, when I was 18, 19, I started this website called 713 Magazine with my best friend Brandon. And we
wait, Brandon Call.
do
Who? Which Brandon?
no no no.
Uh,
I'm forgetting Brandon's last name, but we went to Bridgepoint Elkins together.
okay.
And we started this magazine called 713 Magazine. Two kids. We did our first event with I think Maxo, it was our headliner, our first event in like
Shout out Max.
2017. Yeah, it was his first event like back because he hadn't like performed in Houston in like 2 or 3 years, and it was like the era of like Father and like when Playboy Cardi was just coming up with Broke Boy. It was like right at that era, like that era. And we did like a concert in Houston, and then we did another concert at South by Southwest with like Playboy Cardi, Little Uzi, Uno the activist, and like we were just kids doing this. Like nobody knew, but we were literally just kids doing this. And so we had this blog, and like we would interview rappers and entertainers coming out of Houston, and like but like people were really pitching us. Like we literally were just kids, but people were like literally record labels and like festivals and all that shit was like really pitching us, and we were just like, oh my god, we actually have something here. And so
Okay, wait, pause real quick. How like where do you even get that initiative from? Like as a 17, 18 year old, like because most people at 17, 18 think about yo, I'm applying to college or like I'm trying to party, I'm trying to turn up. Like who's making blog? Like where did that even come from?
I just me and my Brandon is like right now he like manages like DC the Dawn and like a lot of SoundCloud rappers and like things like that right now. But like back then he was like just a kid, like one of those white kids in like Sienna Plantation that just loves rap music. And I was just a girl that was like, dang, I want to like interview people. So like I was like 19 and he was like 18, like right around that time, 20, like right before we hit like 20, we were like teenagers. We just like clicked, like we just became really good friends and we just took off. And long story short, interviewed Megan right when Tina Snow
Oh,
came out. And I interviewed her for 713 magazine, but I ended up getting an internship. I'm trying to talk fast, but I ended up getting an internship at Houstonia. And when I got an internship at Houstonia, Megan was coming out with Tina Snow, and nobody was interviewing her. Like, no big blogs, nobody. But like, I had a relationship with her already, so I interviewed her for Houstonia, and then, that was for Make It Hot. And then when Tina Snow came out, I was like, dang, I could get this better than Houstonia. I could get this at BT or something, because it's like Megan Thee Stallion at this point. Nobody. Yeah,
she was bigger. She had blown up.
She had dropped Tina Snow when like J. Cole had dropped his album, Kanye had dropped his album. Like, she was in the top 20. She was like number 11 on iTunes. And I pitched it to BET, and they didn't accept the pitch, but they were like, do you want an internship? I was like, sure. And then Fader ended up taking the pitch for their print magazine. So it was like a double type of thing.
Win-win.
Went to New York, did the go into the bodega to get avocados for the VP of BET. Like, I remember my first day, they were like, do you know what a bodega is? And I was like, no. What is that? Like, y'all want me to walk there to get stuff? Like, you know me, Houston, we drive everywhere. So I was like, you want me to walk in Times Square to go get you avocados? Like, and this is a Southern girl. I did not know like that's what you have to do. And from day one, I was like, okay, I'm not doing this. Like, y'all got me so effed up. Like, I'm not going to get avocados every single day for somebody.
You would have been terrible on making the band. You wouldn't have walked to Brooklyn for the cheesecake.
No, I wouldn't have been terrible, because I also knew how to play the role. So internally, I was like, y'all got me effed up. But externally, I was like, okay, cool, I'm doing it. What's up? Like, what do you need me to do something else? But like, in my mind, I'm like, this is for the birds. Like, people really do this for years and years and years and years. And like, I'm too talented for this. Yeah. And when I was an intern, I had a print piece in Fader, and I was like, I'm working under editors that don't have print pieces in Fader. All they're doing is writing for BET. And at that point, when I was an intern, I was writing for like Fader, Playboy, like a whole bunch of other places. I was freelancing like for a lot of different places while I was an intern. And I just did that because I just always would dry cold email people and know how to follow up and stuff like that. So yeah, right around the time at BET, I got an internship at Covetor, which was like this like fashion type of blog. And so I was working both. I was working at Covetor and BET. And then, yeah, I just worked there for 10 months. My boss came over to me and told me Essence was hiring. I was like, should I go they were hiring for a fashion assistant job or a fashion editor job. And I was like 22, like, okay, do I want to go the assistant route? Although I'm an intern, which you can go intern, assistant, or do I want to go intern, editor? You know, I don't know. Like, I'll try it. I'll just try. I won't tell them what I'm interviewing for, and I'll just see what they think that I'm interviewing for. So I went in the interview. They thought I was interviewing for editor, so that's what we went with, and I got the job. So it was like, you know, I just and I've obviously had experience because I have been working at BET and Covetor, and I have been freelancing and stuff like that. But you know, that intern to assistant pipeline is like how you do it. But I just kind of like was really confident in myself, knew that I could be an editor really quick, and then kind of from there just skyrocketed, know how to talk to people. I'm really personable, so I feel like that's just kind of how you climb the ladder, and just kind of have confidence.
That's cool. So were you always a writer? Like, was English always your favorite class growing up?
Just always a networker, talker. And I was like, okay, I guess writing, journalism, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like you just have to have common sense to be a journalist, know how to write, know how to be a wordsmith. So I feel like, to be completely honest, I didn't really have crazy aspirations. In high school and college, I was just kind of winging it, just having fun in college in Chicago.
Well, even, how'd you end up, because I feel like Texas is funny, because Texas, like, people will never leave the state, right? Like, you could grow up in Texas and never leave Texas. I feel like people, like, my vision of like the Texas lifestyle is you go to A&M, or you go to like Texas Tech, or you go to some school in, TCU, TSU, Prairie View, which we're trying to hate on, Prairie View, whatever, and then you like stay in Texas. Like, maybe you go to if you're in Houston, maybe you go to Dallas, maybe you go to Austin, but you really just stay in Texas. you get married when you're like 23 to like your high school sweetheart, or like the first person you dated freshman year, like y'all get married when you're 23, 24. You could buy a house for like $100,000 in some places. Or, I mean, now it's a little higher, but like you could basically just live your whole life in Texas. So what made you go from Elkins to like, I'm gonna go to Chicago?
Yeah, my mom, we traveled a lot. So when I was 14, she sent me to LA with my cousin who had just graduated college. And like, I was 14 years old. My friend was 15. We would take my cousin to work and drive through LA. Like 14 and 15 years old. Like on some real like euphoria shit.
I hope it wasn't some real euphoria shit.
I mean, LA at 14, no supervision, like it was some real euphoria shit. So like it was like that's just what I was doing. And then I went to, my mom sent me to this because I would do some stuff like that, go to LA and like wild out. Then she would send me to like a law camp, and she sent me to a law camp at DePaul in Chicago when I was like 15 or 16, like to be a future lawyer. And so I just was like went to DePaul, and I was like, oh my gosh, like it was like I was super young. We stayed in the dorms for like a week or two. It was like during the summer, like kind of like one of those like just getting like those high schoolers ready for new experiences and things like that. And so when I went, I was like, DePaul is so cool. Like I'm in Chicago, I'm riding the train. I'm not gonna be nowhere near my mom, nowhere near anybody. So I just was like, okay. And then I had some family. One cousin at DePaul, or my uncle coached basketball at DePaul, and then my cousin is in the same grade as me, so we would be going into DePaul together. So my mom was like, you're gonna have an aunt and an uncle out there, do you just want to see what it's like? And I went, and I love Chicago. It's one of the best cities in the world. I'm standing by it. Chicago is amazing. So yeah. I've only spent a very little bit of time there, but it's very central to everything. I basically, it feels like it's like New York, but not as expensive. Yeah, it's a great city, great artists there, good opportunity. Like it's like New York, which is not so in your face, but it's cold. That's the only thing. I would go back to Chicago. I would live in Chicago if it wasn't as cold, but it's just too cold.
Yeah, Houston is not very cold. I guess St. Louis is probably a little cold though. A little bit.
Yeah, St. Louis is cold. I mean, I pretty much lived in cold places, like because I was living in New York. I just moved back to Houston a year and a half ago, so I'm kind of used to it. But
okay, so what's like when you became an editor? What was your day to day like? Like, so no more getting avocados for people. Like, what do you do? Like, what's your job at that point as an editor?
I mean, writing every day, obviously making sure stuff and content is going up on the website and print and things like that, because most editors these days are not working in print magazines, but I've only worked in print magazines, which is like really crazy because print is dying right now. But that my career since I've had like a full-time job has only been with print magazines, and they obviously have a digital site. So working in print and digital, and kind of just being on set, being on shoots, fashion weeks and festivals and things of that nature. It's really a fun job. It's a hectic, busy, crazy lifestyle, but it's a really fun job. So yeah.
What are some of your fun memories from that? Like any shoots that you worked on where you were like, oh snap, like I'm really working with so and so, or like this is really like any pinch me moments?
I think when I was a fashion editor at Essence, one of the really cool moments was I went to Atlanta and I was in Cardi B and Offset's house, interviewing Offset for some voter initiatives that he had, but it was during Halloween, so we did this really cool like video, photo, film experience with Offset and Cardi getting ready, and I literally was in their house like eating crab legs with their family, and Culture was running around, and I had to sign crazy NDAs, but it was amazing. It was a cool experience, and they were really cool people, and that was just like something like, dang, like people really trust me enough to vouch for me because it happened through their PR, to where they trust me enough to be in their home,
around their kids.
And it's just around their kids and family, so that was really cool. And it just, as much as people make celebrities so macro, it really made them superhuman in that moment. And so I feel like that was definitely a pinch me moment. And then just two people that I've gotten to interview are Virgil Abloh and Andre Leon Talley. So those are just two people who obviously have passed, but just those interviews really live on. Like those are two interviews that I've got to have, and like I will always have and treasure. So those are probably like a couple picture moments. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. I mean, how do you? Because I think that's one thing. You know, when you're in these moments, like not like realizing you belong, right? Because I think that sometimes, I mean, I'm sure you've seen stories or heard stories of people who get in situations where, and they like kind of like they act like a fan, right? And you can't obviously work in that industry. You know, it's gonna block a lot of things for you if you, because then at that point they're like, okay, this person, like, we don't trust this person, right? Because if they're acting this way, maybe they're gonna violate the NDA. Maybe, you know, I can't trust them. So how do you, like, have you ever been? Because I think for me, like when I moved to LA, it took me a while to kind of get used to, oh, okay, this is just normal, right? Like I'm gonna be around all the people I listened to growing up. You know, all the people who were my, you know, people who I listened to whether even as like people like Diddy, where like as a kid, versus people like more like high school, college soundtrack, like Drake or Party Next Door, you know, different, like, or even people who I listened to in college, like, you know, Sosa and Fredo and, you know, stuff like that, and also Drake too. So I think like how did you ever, I don't know, how did you did you ever see situations where people did that, or how did you avoid sort of like, all right, like I'm gonna play it cool?
I think because I did 713, you know, like I was over it. Like I don't know, I just didn't, never once fanned out. I'll fan out over like reality housewives before I fan out over, like, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't know. I've interviewed so many people and seen so many people, especially living in New York, you know, also just living in Houston, you know, people always out in Houston. I don't know. I never like got fanned out by anybody, and I always just like be cool, like always just be cool and be yourself. And like, I feel like people will gravitate towards that. And I feel like that kind of speaks back to when you were asking me, like, how did I climb the ladder so quick? Like just that, like not being awkward and being cool and being confident and just showing people my personality and letting them do what they want to do with that.
Yeah, that's true. Although I do think it's funny because I feel like Houston doesn't really. I think New York could prepare you, but I feel like Houston, because like the biggest, like no offense to him, but the biggest. I remember growing up in Houston, he might be like, "Yo, I saw Slim Thug at the Galleria." You know, that's like the biggest. You know, like we only have. I mean,
true.
People come for shows and stuff. As far as people who are out here, no one's really like living in Houston. I mean,
No, you're right. Like, it's not like I feel like I'm like, oh my God, there's so many celebrities in Houston, right? I'm just saying, like, I guess my experience in Houston was like, at 18, I'm traveling to South by Southwest or going to Art Basel. Like, I was using a fake at Art Basel. Like, I knew about Art Basel at 20, 18, 19. So it's like, I was doing that stuff super, super young, that it was just like, now when I actually got in the industry young at 20, 21, I was like, oh, like, yeah, I met that person at Art Basel like 2 years ago. Or, you know, I saw that person at South by Southwest, or saw that person, I was going to Lollapalooza super young. So like stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. I went to my first Art Basel this year. So yeah, I was, I mean, I only probably heard about art. I probably didn't even hear about Art Basel until like, you know, when I was like much in the middle of my kind of entertainment career.
See, like so like how initially when I went to South by Southwest, I was with like my friends, and we were just like, you know, sneaking in shows, talking to dudes to get us in shows and things like that. And I was just like, you know what, like, I don't want to do that. Like, I want to like actually be able to like walk up, say like, my name's Nandi, and be able to like get in. And so like immediately like my head just like clicked, like, oh shoot, I got to like do, like, really be in the industry, you know what I'm saying? Like, really do it. And so that was like when I was young, at 17, 18. So it's like, you have that click aha moment super young. It's like, okay, now I know I need to go to college. I know I need to do this. So like actually doing it like the right way. It was like, because I saw some of that stuff so young, I was like able to process it and be like, okay, how can I get to this level, you know?
That's so funny, because I feel like most people, it's the opposite, where it's like they get used to like, because, you know, like a lot of these things you can kind of jug and finesse your, I mean, even as a guy, but especially as a woman, right? You can kind of jug and finesse your way in and be like, oh yeah, no, I'm supposed, like, just like little things. Right? I've heard,
Mm-hmm.
I've even heard of people. I heard recently some people will go to a party store and just buy different colors of wristbands
Mm-hmm.
and just like, you know, like all
Yeah.
like, or they'll find out what color the wristband is that like earlier, and they'll get that color. Or they'll always have all the like stuff like that, right? And so I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of people get addicted to sort of like it's like, oh, I'm gonna keep on finessing. Right? I'm gonna figure out like who to like. I'm gonna just work my way
Yeah.
because you can kind of fake it sometimes because you kind of become a face and people are kind of like, okay, I guess I seen them at this one and I saw them at that event. I saw them at that
But it's
event.
like
So,
it takes the first event to humble you where you can't get in, and then you're like, no. And that was me. I'm like, I'm not gonna be waiting outside watching people get in, and I don't get into these parties, these events, these networking opportunities. So it was like it clearly clicked to me like, oh, to get in these events you have to do something. You have to be somebody. Or like, and I don't want to finesse or try to like, hey, do you have an extra +1 or whatever the case may be. So it was like literally I just said, this is what I'm going to do in college. I'm going to be a journalist. I'm going to be able to interview these people. And that's just kind of like what I did. And especially with 713, it kind of taught me like, oh, so super young, it was taught me like I could get into anywhere if I say I'm media.
yeah, low key, you're right. That's
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, a friend of mine is a hip hop reporter at Vibe, and like he's a huge Drake fan. And Drake just had those 2 shows at the Apollo, and he, night one, he was there to cover it for Vibe, through Sirius, and he was able to, he didn't have to do some sort of like I'm a hustle and figure out, and like I went to night 2, and like luckily, somebody from OVO just put me on Drake's guest list, and it's so much. It's just I hit him up super last minute. I hit him up like the day of, like, yo, whatever, and he took care of me. But that just took such a burden off. So I don't have to, not that I would have anyway, but like I gotta, man, let me text this dude to call, and be outside and be like, yo, bro, I'm good, whatever, and just
finessing,
like, nah, hey,
yeah,
who's listing you on Drake's list? All right, boom, all right, here's your name's on the envelope, everything's set. So yeah, I definitely, but it is interesting because I do think that a lot, especially in LA, maybe it's also an LA thing. I feel like a lot of people just like, because you can kind of fake it long enough to where it's like
you can, yeah,
certain people.
But then you get so much more respect when you're actually doing something, and you get so much more fulfillment when you're doing something. Because I have so many influencer friends who finesse their way into many parties, but it's like, it was simple. Like last week, Coco Jones had her party here in LA. Oh, I'm in LA, so that's what I'm saying here. But she's had her party, and like my friends were like, oh yeah, I'm going. And I was able just to text her PR, who's my good friend, and be like, hey, can you put me on the list? But it's like small things like that. Whereas me just trying to finesse at the door, it's like it just doesn't never give that. So
yeah. Also, past a certain age, it's just like embarrassing. If you're like, if you're like 17, 18, I'll even say like 21, 22, 23. But like,
past
at
that,
certain points, like, it's like, you. Yeah.
I'm not gonna be sneaking in a party or standing outside something. So I think just early on, I saw that, and like just created a career to where I would never have to do that.
Well, and also I think you don't you realize at some point you don't have to be at everything, too. Like I think, cause especially in LA, like everything will be this. Like you'll miss a party, and then that same exact party will happen the next day with the same people at the same place, right? So I think also realizing, you don't really have to be at everything. Unless like, it's for work or something, but just in general.
Yeah, for me, I was just kind of like, and I learned that when I was in New York, and I think because I had like experienced so much, already, just different experiences like throughout different cities. In New York, when I first got there, I was totally anti. I was like, I'm not going to this. Like, I'm not doing that. I don't want to be around nobody. But maybe, and I feel like maybe that's also like the Houston in me too a little bit. But it took me a while to like get out of that. Like, and I'm still even like that. Like when I go to fashion weeks and stuff, I don't really want to talk to too many people. My friends are like, you got to open up. You got to be like that. But I think that just created a good barrier for me to know, like, I don't have to be everywhere. I don't have to be in everybody's face. Like, I really just like to get my work done and hang out with my friends who are not in the industry. Like, I like to have fun and separate work and play, and I don't really like to incorporate that and mix those two together.
Right. So you were at Essence as a fashion features editor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're, I guess, assistant fashion features editor, then fashion features editor. Then you went to Houstonia, editor in chief, and then you went back. You went back to Essence, the content director, right?
Yeah.
So what's that like? What is what is a content like? What is your job now, like as a content director?
I mean, a content director is I'm just helping lead the magazine digital. My day to day is working in digital, and then making sure that print just runs smoothly as far as editorial is concerned. We have a amazing creative team who does that and works on that, who like really styles the covers and all of that. But I really work what's going in the magazine from an editorial perspective. Working with my VP who kind of leads content and things of that nature. But yeah, just making sure that digital runs smoothly and that social and video and all those things are tied into one. And then also elevating the print magazine to put some really cool stories and things of that nature.
Okay, right. So you didn't really leave print behind. You just you focus on digital, but like you're still
print is the print is still print. It's like print is a whole.
That's true.
I mean, like, and if you don't, it's like a whole different ball game. Like, it really, really is. Like it's to also do both. I just commend like everybody who's still like working in print because it's a lot.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just talked to for this podcast. I talked to Angelica Wandu, like the founder of the Shade Room. Like the Shade Room, like it was an Instagram account, right? And there's no, so it is like so many things focus on digital now, but people, like print is still print, like you said, right? Like there's still
print is still, it's like it's an elegance to print still. And I feel like if you have a publication that is still doing print magazines, like no matter what, you're doing something right, especially in this like day and age. So it's a lot, but it's like so rewarding, like to see your name in a print magazine. Like I think to see editors like, like to see editors like tell me like, oh my God, thank you so much. Like I've never been in a print magazine, or this is my first print piece, because the era is so digital. It's like nothing like it. Like giving an editor that cover story, letting them like writing a cover story is like everything, because it's like coveted now. So yeah, it's a cool experience. Yeah. It's a lot, but it's a good experience.
For sure. I remember even just like growing up seeing like there's just certain iconic covers like Tupac, Rolling Stone, or even like you think about like Vibe and like Source, like during the. I mean, obviously I was young, like way too young at that point, but like seeing it later, right? Like Vibe, Source, the East Coast, West Coast beef, just sort of these iconic covers, and like you can't, because digital's so fleeting. Like there isn't there's like a permanence to print where it's like, oh, this is you could, it's physical.
And like you could still like you mentioning those covers, it's like it may be hard to find, but you could still get those covers. They may be expensive, but it's like that's what print is. Like at the end of the day, like there's always something out there that's tangible.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so, I mean, of the cities that you've lived in, so like Houston, New York, have you lived in LA or no?
No, I haven't lived in LA. Houston, New York, Chicago.
I guess Chicago's your favorite?
Yeah, I would say Chicago's my favorite. I love Houston though, don't get me wrong. But Houston's like kind of toxic. I was just telling my friend this. Like it's like because it's not the industry, it's just toxic. Like as far as like going out and stuff, because nobody cares. Everybody's here like just having fun. Everybody's in Houston having fun, going working, having fun. So it's like I love Houston, but I can't stay in Houston.
Yeah, I feel like if you're trying to do anything creative or really creative, it just isn't like Atlanta, New York, LA just have more to offer. Houston has a big rap scene, and I feel like like especially all the people who blew up, and I think what was it? What year was it when Mike Jones and all of them blew up? Like 06 or 04, whatever year that was.
Yeah,
and like all those people, you see them, they'll be doing shows forever, and it's kind of like Boosie, right? Where like Boosie can tour for the rest of his life just in Louisiana and really just the South, right? But if you're doing outside of music and outside of those specific people, kind of that era, you have to really go to LA or New York. I mean, you see like Travis didn't blow up in Houston, right?
Yeah, you do have to venture out. I think I respect what helped me really appreciate Houston was moving back for Houstonia and like realizing like, oh my gosh, this city is dope. There's so much to offer here. Great opportunities just to grow and expand. And I really fell in love, I think, with the city like during that time. But as far as going macro to a major media company of some sort or whatever the case, I like obviously I'm at Essence and I'm still living there, but I won't be, in the next year or two. So it's like feel like I get to reset there a little bit, but at the same time, because I'm not with individuals who are necessarily like in my industry, it can kind of, there's a lot more, like the values are a little bit different, which is nothing wrong with that, but.
Well, also I think it's tough because I like my experience with Houston. Like I grew up in A-Leaf and I moved to Fort Bend, so I'm not gonna act like A-Leaf is like the trenches, but like there was always just like I mean like when that I don't know if you like I don't know how Elkins or like what area were you like camp like what area were you like Sugarland
like Missouri City.
Oh, most yeah. Like it's weird because like Houston has these neighborhoods that like they're not the trenches, but like I don't know if it's because we have gun culture where everyone's strapped.
Yeah, I mean, in that teenagers, like I remember like I was hearing about this. This person having a gun or this person getting shot at teenagers, but then it's like Houston's also it's not like that, but then it is. It's really hard to explain.
Yeah, it's weird.
The city, like even like going out, like going to the strip club or something like that. It's like, oh yeah, you got to be like careful. But then it's like, it's Houston also. It's like very Lux, very Galleria, River Oaks. So it's just so hard to explain it to my friends.
It's very hard to explain because I feel like on the one hand, like I never like, I don't ever like, I'm not a fan of like stolen valor, right? Where it's like you pretend something like I'm never going to act like it was like growing up, it was like O Block and we just dodging bullets left and right. But at the same time, like people were getting, like there was,
I mean,
like, and I remember thinking that like, I mean, it's sad. But I remember like when I saw all those videos of like the Offset thing, or sorry, the Takeoff thing, not Offset. But like, I wasn't really surprised because I've seen that exact situation play out where like, one person swings and then like, like
that's Houston culture, like not all of it, but just gambling things. Getting taken out of context and of that nature, like we've grown up kind of hearing those stories. So like you said, it wasn't surprising. It just that the person that it happened to.
Yeah, and like such a fluke, freak thing that like, but yeah, like it was such like watching those videos. It was funny because I had a friend who was in town because it was Halloween, and they were like, "Oh, like what do you do? What are you doing? Like what do you?" I'm like, "Bro, I don't be going like because my I went to boarding school for high school in Virginia. Then I went to college in Massachusetts. Then I was in New York. I was working on Wall Street. And I moved to LA to write for Blackish. And so, yeah, I grew up in Houston, but I was never really outside in Houston.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't really be outside like that because even I've just been in a couple different. I mean, I'm sure you too. Like where stuff started popping off. Somebody's bullets start flying. And so I remember when I the next day waking up and seeing that and being like, oh yeah, and seeing the video of just how quick it happened, right? Where it's like, somebody's talking. Somebody says something, somebody swings on somebody, and then within seconds, it's gunfire. So it's sad. I know, like Houston has, like you said, Houston has like River Oaks and the Galleria and these like really nice areas. And I as I spent more time in Houston after the pandemic because I've been more remote, I want to be like, okay, like there are those areas. I don't have to always think of Houston as like, I gotta
wash your back.
Sure.
I
gotta wash my back.
It was crazy because at night my friend had a party and we were all out, and then we went to Area 29, and then my friend was there. She looked sad and she was like, Takeoff just passed, and it was before it hit the news or anything because it was like circulating around Houston, and we were just like, all of us were just so shook because it reminds you like we were at this really nice Lux party and then you get grounded again, like really quick. So. Yeah.
Well, it can't be. It was at Area 29. It couldn't be that. Was it that Lux? Area 29 is a little ratchet.
No, I'm saying before. I said
before. Okay, before.
We ended the area before.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, no, it is weird. I also look. I feel like maybe this isn't right, but I also feel like Katrina changed a lot because I feel like a lot of people came from New Orleans, and like New Orleans just has like a
Louisiana
different
culture.
Yeah, I feel like Houston. I feel like growing up, we had more of like a. Even if you think about Maxo, right? Like a squabble culture, right? Like a fighting, like Maxo fought Rizzo, like over, whatever. Like, and it's on YouTube. I'm not breaking any news, but like it was, and they fought. Nobody shot. Everybody saw Swak was like, yo, nobody. Hey, put your guns away. Like, let's just they gonna fight. And we did have a fighting culture growing up, but I think I really do think when 2005, like Katrina happened, and then it was just like a lot of people came over here, like in New Orleans.
Yeah.
They had that shooting culture.
Yeah,
it's
the guns.
It's very guns. I mean, we always had gangs and stuff, but
it got crazy.
It got crazy. It got like it's tough because I mean, I'm a homebody anyway, to be honest, but it's definitely like I don't really like if I was just in New York, I'll go out in New York. I'm not in New York often, but I'll go out in LA. I don't really be going out in Houston. Like I
will say, like, I love Houston. I've had some of the funnest moments, like, of my 20s in Houston. But it's just, you really just have to know, like, the right people. But it's like, Houston is in its era where, like, you know, when Atlanta first was coming up and everybody was going to Atlanta and having, like, the time of their life, especially in, like, this nightlife scene. Like, I feel like it's Houston is right now. And so, like, you can go and have fun and be safe, you know, but you just have to kind of know that crowd.
Yeah, and the pandemic too, like, because Houston, Texas was open, Georgia was open, Texas was open, so people kind of left. I mean, but there's also like a sixth sense to it. I remember I was, you know, like I said, I don't be going outside, but in April, Drake was out here for like a couple of days, and like he, I can't remember what it was for, but he was out here for a couple of days in April, and he had like a private party at Dave and Buster's, and then like DJ Eric, who's like the renowned strip club DJ, like, after party at G5, and I'm like, it's past my bedtime, but you know what? Hey, you know, some of my friends are in town from like Toronto, like, you know, some of those dudes that work with him, and so I was like, all right, like I'm gonna go to the G5, and I went and like I was in, you know, a couple people, you know, Junior and Mike Prince, whatever, were there, and I just saw like something I think like somebody just walked up, you know, you just see something happening, you're like, yo, something's off, and so I started dipping, and like I swear I was like getting out of there. And then all of a sudden, like I started hearing a whole bunch of, you know, so it's just, it's tough. I want to be able to enjoy Houston, but I always had that sense of like, you know, and even like, I mean,
if you're around, you know, those type of people, you know, something's bound to happen. Certain people, something's bound to happen. So you just have to be careful with where you're at, because you know that being around certain crowds will attract or possibly attract certain things. So you just got to be careful. I'm having a good time. Like, I am literally enjoying myself. Like I said, I'm having so much fun that I need to get out. So where
do you go? I'm starting to get, you know, I go to like Joey Uptown. That's like it's a good vibe.
Yeah, I love Joey's. Joey's so good.
Yeah. Where else do you spend your time in Houston?
Okay, obviously Joey's, my friends and I love 13, which is like James Harden's kind of like lounge, restaurant, club area. So we like to go to the hookah lounge there. Where are we? Where else are we at a lot? Obviously, like, you know, the nice restaurants. There's this new restaurant called Santee that everybody's going to. It's like a pasta Italian restaurant. It's just like, we just be outside, you know?
Yeah, I'll check it out. That's true. And I also feel like as you get a little older, it's like more, like less clubs, more restaurants, right? Like more.
Yeah, like, you know, and that's kind of what we love, a lounge. My friends and I love a lounge type of vibe. Like, we will go to the club, don't get us wrong, but it's only like if one of our friends has a section or something. We're just not going to stand in like general population. Like, we're going to
general.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like, in Houston is like that. You won't rarely see people stand, like, they're not going to be there unless it's really a section type of vibe.
Well, yeah, the club has like turned into, I mean, I was never a big club person, but yeah, it is like now it's about, I mean, LA is the worst with that. Like, I remember people like, I remember I saw a tweet, someone was like, yo, you'll be at the club and like, somebody will be recording somebody, you know, like everybody's just on their phones, like doing on their phone. But yeah, it is fun.
No, I will say Houston is like, you know, it's the South, so people gonna dance rather than LA. People just gonna stand around. People gonna dance in Houston.
Well, in LA, people go out to be seen. So I feel like LA is the first place where like, and if you ask somebody, I remember when I first moved, I noticed this. Like, if you ask somebody in another city, like, oh, how was last night? They'll tell you, oh, like, yeah, it was lit. The DJ was dope, whatever. If you ask somebody in LA how someone was last night, they'll be like, oh, like, you know, Drake was there, and like, so like they'll tell you who was there as opposed to like, you know, it's more about like who, it's more about like who's there. What about the what's it called? So, what advice would you give to somebody who wants to do what you're doing, right? Like somebody, let's say there's like a 14, 15-year-old, 16, 17-year-old, 18-year-old even, who's like, oh, I want to get I want to be a director of content for Essence. One day when you're CEO, what are they? What should they be doing?
I would just say be cool and don't do too much. Yeah, it's just
start a
be
blog.
chill.
Start a blog in your city.
Yeah, like just chill out. Like don't do too much. Don't psych yourself out. Like everything happens for a reason. Don't get discouraged by the word no. Just keep trying. Like you know what I'm saying? Like I can't
stalk people over email.
Yeah, that type of stuff. Be persistent. But just like be cool. Like everything's gonna happen. Everything's gonna turn out how you want it to be. Meet your deadlines. That's it.
Okay, that's good. That's good advice. I feel like it's interesting, right? Like the path is never like you didn't know that that starting that blog was going to lead to everything that it led to, right?
Yeah, I didn't. I just did it because I just just like I told you, I was outside so young that it's just like now I'm happy to see like other people experiencing it. And it was just like I just did it because I was just very ambitious, like I said. So yeah, I can't. Everybody's path is different.
What did you need a lot of resources? Did you need a lot of money to start the blog? I guess like you need like a website.
Yeah, we just did a website, put our money together. Like I said, my business partner, he, kind of well-off white boy in Siena. So we had
Siena Plantation. That's a nice.
We had a couple parental resources, but we did it ourselves
because booking Max. I mean, even in 2017, booking Max. So I mean, it's still.
We did that ourselves. We did that ourselves. Like we didn't have. We texted his manager. Just did it all ourselves. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he had a feature in Houstonia that I saw. Him and Ezra. That was because of me.
The record labels. Okay, I figured. I was just like that sounds like that sounds like too much of a coincidence.
Yeah, that was because of me.
That's good. They're doing dope things. Okay, I guess the last thing, my topic that it's funny. I have a lot of these interviews. I was asking people about dating at the very end, and I was like, man, I'm recording these so far in advance that because people would be like some people would be like, oh yeah, but I'm in a relationship. Like my girlfriend's amazing, my boyfriend's amazing, whatever. And I was like, man, I hope they don't break up before I put this out. And it finally happened. Somebody I interviewed the woman. I don't know if you know Love Island, but it's like that dating show. But they have a US version, and so my friend was on One Love Island US, and I was like, I'm going to put out the episode on Valentine's Day, whatever, because she stayed together with the guy that she met on the show. They won, but like recently she went on a podcast and just aired him out and said he's trash and his family's trash and they broke up. Oh my God. It was pretty. I'm still going to put it out on Valentine's Day though, but
whatever, you recorded it.
Yeah, it's a moment in time. I'll do an intro, but yeah, there's all this stuff about like alpha males and stuff. Like I feel like as a woman, especially a black woman who's like has a career and is focused on and has like obviously I don't know like what's dating like for that, because I feel like some people are like, oh, like guys are less attracted to you the more you're a boss, but also like there are guys who want like a power couple type of thing. So is that what's your experience?
I feel like I just turned 27, so I don't know. I'm like always super optimistic. So I'm not like in a relationship, but I'm just like, I just be doing me, like, I don't know. I'm just like very like, what's the word? Like, I don't really, I'm like nonchalant right now. Like very just like, I mean, whatever comes my way, comes my way.
Okay. I feel that. I think sometimes like when you're looking for something, like when you're not looking for something, that's when you find it. Especially like with love. I feel like if you're like, if you're like, oh, I gotta get a man. I got, Lord, send me a man. I'm gonna put a man on my vision board. That it'll. But if you're just kind of
some people do get men when they put them on their vision board. Like I know my friends who are very much like, yeah, I'm gonna be in a relationship, and then it actually happens. Or like they're looking for that. I just personally think I'm not looking for that right now. I think like I'm, people just need to come correct. So it's like I don't have to force it. Like it's just whatever. What
does correct look like? Like is that like flowers, like dinner, vacations? Like what's? Because I feel like the city girls kind of.
I don't want to do this because I feel like people are gonna judge me. So I don't want to do this.
No, hey,
I'm not doing this. I feel like people are gonna judge me, so I'm not.
Wow, so then it's flowers, vacations, Anna Birkin, and it's the
if that's what you want to do. That's what you want to do. I'm not. I mean, if that's what comes with it, I'm just like, I don't like people trying too hard. So if we initially start talking and you do all of that, then that makes me think that you do all of that for anybody that you talk to, and nobody wants that. So I think it's just all about like the connection that you have with somebody, and I think like. Yeah, that's what happens. Some people don't care, and like if that's what you're looking for, that's what you're looking for. But I think at 27, I'm not really looking just for a meaningless connection. So it's like, you would rather just kind of wait it out and see. So I feel like I'm at the age where I don't have to force it right now.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm happy you said that about a connection, because I feel like sometimes because of the whole like, rest in peace Kevin Samuels, but also the whole, the city girls. I feel like guys or people feel like, I think because of Instagram culture, I feel like guys think, oh, you gotta like, the first date, you gotta go to Tulum and Cabo, and then you gotta like, you gotta apply all this pressure. But I do think,
some people do want that, and some of my friends do. Like, who doesn't want to trip in Tulum, right? But I personally,
the first date though, the first date,
yeah, the first. That's what I'm saying. Like, the first date is a little sketch, but everybody is different. I feel like maybe the third date for me, but like the first date is like
the third. So Tulum is the third date. I like that. Tulum is leaving the country. That's the third. Yeah. Leaving the country. That's the third date. Yeah, no, I mean it's interesting. I think that, like, because of I don't know. I'm not gonna say because of the city girls, because obviously people have been rapping about. You could go back to Trina, and you go back to Destiny's Child, like bills about you better provide. But I think they just were more like explicit about it. But I do think it makes people sometimes think, oh, that's how you have to come. But I feel like low key,
for sure,
like
you just need to get off the internet.
Yeah. I feel like if you're trying to talk to like Drea or like Karuchi, like you probably do have to come that way, because they've dealt with the Quavos and the the athletes and all this stuff. But just for a normal like. Even like a normal, like cute, pretty person, they just want a connection, somebody who's like nice to them.
Wait, no, I feel like the way that you would come at a Drea or a Karuchi is the way you need to come at, because it's like they're all the same people. What's the difference? What's the difference? I
feel like I'm talking about like as far as like material things, though, right? As far as like, oh, you gotta like,
yeah, true, because it's like they're used to a certain type of lifestyle.
I just mean more like the whole the lifestyle. Like you gotta.
It's not too like those women can equally be on the same level. It's just they're used to a different type of lifestyle because of the men that they've dated.
Yeah. That's what I mean. I just mean like I think that like it's easy to get caught up in the internet where it's like, oh, you have to, it looks like everything is Birkin. And I mean, if you're on that part of the internet, it might look like everything's Birkins and trips, and it's like that's a very small.
It's a very small part. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Definitely, you can find like your happiness not with like mainstream macro level things that are just. That's why I said people need to get off the internet, especially when it comes to dating, because everybody's situation is just different, and I feel like that's why I'm not really pressed for really anything, because I feel like everything will just fall into place and come naturally, but I can't base my morality off like what I learned on the internet and social media.
I love that. Well, okay, where can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram. All my ads are It's Nandi Baby. So yeah, that's literally everything.
Well, thank you. I will look forward to looking at what's on the cover of Essence, looking for your name in the magazine, in the print magazine, and I guess online too.
The next magazine. Wait, when is this coming out?
I don't know. I've recorded way too many, but you're gonna jump the line. You're definitely gonna jump the line. So in the next few weeks.
I was gonna say, because the next cover, I have a really big hand in that, so I don't want to say too much, but
okay. Well, by the time people see it, maybe I'll record an outro and say what the cover is by the time this comes out. But no, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it, and I'm gonna make an effort to explore the nicer parts of Houston and not always feel like I'm gonna, have to be
just stay in or you'll like Houston. Let me know when I'm out there, we can do something, because Houston has its good parts. So
it does. I think I let my childhood a little bit clouded, where like people were just like you said, as kids, where it's like, and even like you said, it's like, most city, like I lived in A-Leaf and then I moved to Fort Bend, and it's like I look back at some of these people who, you know, are unfortunately like locked up for, you know, murder and things. It's like, you know, y'all, we didn't grow up in like you know, like most city, obviously, like it's like you didn't grow up in like these terrible situations, and it's just people just kind of sort of ended up, some people just going down the wrong path. Yeah, but all right, well, thanks a lot, and have a good enjoy LA. It's one of my probably my favorite city.
Thank you. All right, bye.
Bye.